when Tiffany was in, I think it was first grade, there was a Christmas pageant, and Tiffany was supposed to do a duet with one of her classmates. And so the day of the program, her friend is sick. And so Tiffany, so the whole light's on her, right? And she grabs the microphone, pulls it down to her, and just sang it beautifully. It's like, there was no fear, no hesitation at all. It was like, this is my moment, and I'm going to take it.
Chapter 2, John and Wendy Schwab, Mom and Dad. The journey of going back and verbally documenting the first 17 years was about curating the people who chose to lean in to my life. And some of them I chose, and some of them chose me. But our parents, that's like not a thing you pick normally, It's like God, things bring you together. And so the role of parents in helping you uncover who it is that you are and who, what it was that you are intended to do, and helping you on your journey of becoming is like really important and super formative. And I think there's stages, even when you can't remember as a child, where they begin to see like the sparks, the early sparks of who you are. And the job of being intentional about how do you put your child in places where they can continue to like understand and reveal and feel what it's like to be in the middle of your gifts. These people, these voices, these experiences, they were my mentors. They are the people who helped build and refine and grow me into the leader that I have the opportunity to be today. This is the first 17 years. I remember what the room felt like towards me afterwards.
Well, even during, and like the first words of the song, I'll never forget it, is I'm a little doll and I can't be broken. And it was like a pin drop. It was like she had captured like the whole room. It was amazing. Yeah.
Because the response was immediate.
I just remember knowing I had done something that impacted people.
Tiffany was always kind of like the energy, like she brought energy into the room. She knew everybody that was like at church. She was just always the one that would bounce up to people. She wasn't afraid of anybody. I think one of the things that is fun now is like my mom and I, when we're together, we will quote Tiffany when she was a toddler. We'll kind of laugh because she was just always announcing herself. She's like, hold on, here come TT. It was just special and fun, and we would always laugh at her.
Yeah, so we were grain farmers, and we had a couple full-time hired men, so it was, had people. In the winters and grain farming, it's a little slow. And so we were together, my mom's side, and one of my uncles said, hey, have you ever thought about building pallets, wooden pallets in the off season, in the winter? And I go, well, no. And he goes, why don't you come by and take a look at what we're doing? Because he had bought one a couple years or maybe 5 years before this. And seeing my uncle's operation, even though it was small, he had maybe 10 or 12, total guys, but just kind of see this process. And I just loved it. I was like, well, if we can help solve a packaging or a, mobility issue for them, moving their product on pallets, like I could do that. And it started knocking on doors, started getting a few orders. I mean, it takes a while, but they were small, so we did farming and the pallet businesses for 1 year together. I always enjoyed farming when I did it. I was never like, I hate this at all. I loved a lot of it, but there was something about maybe the newness of getting behind the four walls and seeing all these different products being made, and you can be a part of that. And I love processes, and with building pallets, if you can improve that process every day, you get to see that improvement. We weren't making any money yet. It wasn't based on that.
I remember the moment thinking, he has got so many ideas, and financially it was just really tight. And I also remember the moment thinking, if I don't let him talk, he'll stop talking. He'll just quit telling me these ideas, and then what's going to happen? So I feel like we really formed a really great team back then when we went through the tough times, because I had to really learn to trust him. Right after Brett was born, we call it the Schwab depression, where we were doing doing more with the pallet company and phasing out of farming. And that switch was a really hard time financially for us. So our church family knew that, and there was $300 that showed up in the mail, and that helped us buy milk and groceries that week. Like, it was like to the point where it's like, this is getting really hard, John. And that $300 was like somebody gave us $3,000. It was amazing.
I think mom and dad both, I would say that the thread of hospitality runs very generously. And when there was a moment to serve someone, very small or very big, there was never this like martyrdom that would settle into either one of you. Like, it was a real generous, like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, no hesitation, whatever was required, even if the end point sort of kept moving. You know, like, there was always just, I think that hospitality and sort of heart of service is very common in both of you.
So I remember some hard months of that transition of, doing the pallet business and like growing that. I remember being dispatcher and sitting in the office and putting the kids in the other room. I was acting like I was this dispatcher from like from like this corporate office. Sure, we can deliver those. Hold on, hang up the phone, call John. We just got an order from Eli Lilly. It was our first one. I mean, just being like so excited as kids, being like, can you believe this? This is actually real. Like, Eli Lilly called us and they think that we're in office and this is actually the changing room. But it was really literally the way it started. I remember she was a teenager. I was like, Tiffany, you need to sweep the deck off. We had a bunch of like acorns out there and it was kind of a big job. She took this like broom out that was like 6 inches wide. And I saw her out there and it's like, we have a pretty large deck. I was like, it's going to take her 3 days. And she didn't actually like it that she had to do it. And I was like, hey, Tiffany, there's like a great big shop broom in the garage. Just go get that. She said, no, I got it. I'm good. John was relentless, just talking to Tiffany in a way that like, if you had another idea or if you didn't want to do something, sometimes she would get stubborn.
I remember telling Wendy, if we hit $1 million in revenue, we're going to be a real company. And we hit $1 million in revenue, it's kind of like, that's really just getting started. It dawns on you, So I still believe the first $1 million was the hardest. It starts picking up from there because you start getting some competency, and then more people have confidence in you as a company, right? I found myself doing 80% of what I didn't like to do and 20% of what I did. I love the whole startup, the messiness. I like to see if we can do this better. But you make money by doing it consistent, and so I remember going home and telling Wendy, I said, I need to find my replacement in the next 5 years. The need for entrepreneurship or a lot of change and understand the product, the industry and all that, we had figured it out. And even today, here we are, 20 years later, and even today we're doing 90% of what we did back then. We do it much better and larger scale.
But is it right that you're the largest pallet manufacturer east of the Mississippi?
We're largest privately held.
My senior year of high school, I went out for the 4-H Queen, which is a big deal in my small little town. Well, I thought it was.
It is a big deal. No, it's a big deal.
And I won. And so then the next year you come back and it's like a kind of a transition ceremony. You address the 4-H community and thank them for this experience. It is really a special week where you get to interact with the community in a way that is very atypical for an 18-year-old. You have all these young kids that are suddenly really enamored with the fact that you have a crown on. Literally all week long, all day long, from like sun up to sundown, you're going to all these events, and these kids have worked months and months and months for this sort of moment to be in the ring. And you give them their ribbon, and you're sort of there for where they explode and blow up and things go very poorly, and for those who were the underdog and they won. And there's just all sort of this like drama playing out in real time in these little fairgrounds. And so at that ceremony, I got a chance to share that with the community. And at the end, when I was done, the whole auditorium stood up and started clapping. And I think in that moment, I realized I had the ability to communicate powerfully to a room of people the thing that I had felt and experienced. And like we had a shared moment as a result of that.
It was really special because you brought all the faces of 4-H in the community into that speech and celebrated it all. And everybody felt so like excited that they were part of 4-H. And you just said, this is about you guys and what we have here. And brought the little emotions of the kids, like all that, because the parents, the grandparents, I mean, everybody worked so hard for 4-H.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was really special.
Even
Special
today, 20 years later, the people that remember was around when Tiffany was queen, that she was one of the best they ever had because she engaged so much.
It's true.
It's hard for teenagers to do that, let alone
Mhm.
every day for 5, 6, 7 days, and yeah.
I think if our kids did a good job, we celebrate them, because that was a big deal.
I've never said, "Here's what you need to be doing."
Yeah,
Nor
we
is
don't
Wendy.
parent like that at all. It is interesting when we think about like Tiffany and like what her business trajectory was. Um, just the different things that you have done, like college and like the internships that you like went to, and even like scooping ice cream. Remember, like you had so many funny stories, but you always showed up and you just figured what you did and didn't like about things, but you did it with gusto. That part was really fun to watch you grow. And then your big ideas. I feel like Tiffany's always been like, if I had to say like one sentence about her, she's just always had these big ideas. And
Mhm.
it always involves other people and a lot of fun.
I think the nature that has really continued is like you've never been one to say, "Well, I can't do it because of somebody," or "I can't do it
Mhm.
because of some circumstances." Like you've never had barriers like in front of you. Is like, "Well, this person they won't cooperate, so I can't do it," and that's still your mantra today. It's just,
Mhm.
and it's not like I'm going to do whatever I want to do in spite of people. It isn't that at all. It's just
I don't
you don't
notice
ever
it.
think through that. No,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Mhm.
no.
I think that when I tell my story, I often say the question I'm always asking the world is, can I compete in a bigger pond? We lived in a very small town, um, but there were times we would go to the city. It was a big deal. We would go to Chicago for like Disney on Ice or a play that you guys got us tickets for, like as a family for
Mm-hmm.
Christmas or something. And I just always remember loving the energy of the city. And growing up, I mean, I wasn't on a plane till I was maybe 18, but I just remember places like airports where there were kind of people moving at speeds you don't see in small
Mm-hmm.
towns. I was always just like really enamored by that. I never remember feeling like, oh, I got to get out of here, or I feel so trapped, or like these people are backwards, or like I never felt it in a way that was like disparaging to the environment I was in because I really loved where I was. Like I loved my friends, I loved the community we were in. So it wasn't like I got a bolt. This place is crazy at all. And I like never felt that way. But I had this sense of curiosity about that. That's what I remember feeling.
I think Tiffany always saw a big world.
Yeah.
No matter where she went, it's everyone was included. Everything was possible. Um, she did have a lot of friends because she was always spunky and she liked to bring people along for the ride. And she still does today. I mean, that was always core to her.
Tiffany always wanted to dream big. There was simplicity there, but I think knowing that in you, you were able to take that child curiosity and you were able to plug that into things that were available to you.
She has a unique way of getting rid of all the clutter or all that what everyone else sees too. And to Tiffany, she sees this thing that she's going to check out. What is that really like? I just got to go learn. I want to experience everything. There's always something that she wants to experience.
I think the idea of business as the center of the wheel for a healthy community
Mm-hmm.
is very much an ideology that's inside of you, Dad,
Mm-hmm.
that I would say I'm a flag bearer for, because you introduced that, you lived that, you modeled that, and a lot of your mentorship in places you want to change community is around creating stable income streams for families, because you know that creates stable tenants for landowners, and that creates stable tax base for a
Stable
community.
families.
Yeah, and then all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
When you're not worrying about money, you have a chance to give more freely.
Mhm.
And I think as you and Mom have been blessed financially, you do see the size of your reach of what you can give grow.
Yeah,
And
true.
there's a real, I don't know, it's cool to see that play out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a real believer in never taking away the tension of business or of transacting life, because as soon as you do, you weaken the person. I mean, as parents, we want to just spoil our kids. We want them to have everything we didn't have. Like, well, when you think about it, you're really ruining your kid. At least I would have had I, it's just the way we are as humans, the way God made us, the fact that we don't know much yet. We need to learn it. Is when you take that tension away, it just handicaps a person, and then I don't like that.
Outside of being my dad and a phone a friend, and at times needing to be a stern financial partner, like, you know what I mean, like no, you've got to figure this out. Or I would be like, I think I need $1 million and it'll be fine. He would be like, the worst thing you could have is more cash. And I'd be like, but money solves everything. And you're like, that's what you think. And then you would like not hang up, but hang up. Those are really the roles that you played.
Yeah,
in the
yeah, for
business.
sure.
So I was working for the small agency that you bought, as like a marketing director or something. I don't know what my title is. And I don't know how much time went by, maybe 6 months or something. And then one day we met for lunch at O'Charlie's in Lafayette. Do you remember this? No, you don't remember
I
that
don't.
part. I just was like, this is all the stuff. I think we had a month where we had $0 in revenue. And I was like, that's troubling. I had exported a bunch to you, and you said, well, I think you need to run it. And it was really not on my radar at all. And I don't remember the series of events that happened to actually make that be the case, but I do remember that being the trigger for me being like, what? Oh, interesting. And that completely changed the course of my life. Dad seeing that I could be the president of this completely changed the trajectory of my life. Are there any aspects of my life today that are surprising to the two of you?
None.
No, to me either. I think one of the things, like from when you were very little, just if you were up there in a program at church, like looking back and seeing the thumbs up, it's like, you got this, girl, and you had it. And that was one thing I think as you've grown, like, you've got this, girl, that you can do this. Like, you don't stop then once you know that you can do it, like, even if it's hard. So I'm not surprised where you're at. I'm like, thankful that you have brought a lot of people on the journey with you, and that doesn't surprise me either, because you would be very lonely if it would just be you, because you left a lead, that you would hate that. But it's neat to see the team that you have around you, and it's also very neat for me to walk in and see, like, it's so beautiful here. Like, the space is beautiful, and you care about like how they work and their families. All of that does not surprise me at all.
I mean, you're a little like a diamond. That is that the more pressure, the better you get. And I would never put pressure on you as a parent or want to in business at all more than the world already, or the business already gives you. But I mean, you've had plenty of moments that you could have bailed and said, you know what, I didn't start this isn't me. And you never have.
Next time on the first 17 years.
Chapter 3, Marcia Stone.
I remember this young, energetic ball of fire coming at me. She almost blew me over.
You had great discipline in saying, like, not yet, meaning it wasn't time to synthesize yet.
You either do one or two things. You either say, I'm done and I quit right now. I'm not going any further because I suck. Or you keep pounding at it. And you did.
I hope each of these conversations are a reminder to stop and thank the mentors in your own life, the people who have helped us each unpack life and just live the journey much more fully. If you want more of this content, please subscribe to Scared Confident, please, and share it with a friend. And if you want more sort of inside track, follow along on Instagram. We share a lot there. Thanks for listening. This is The First 17 Years, a production in partnership with Share Your Genius.